Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the 2023 Leading Transformational Change Forum. I am Kim McEachran. I am a coach and member of C4C, and I have the great pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker today, Juan Betancourt. Juan is CEO of Human Intelligence, an award-winning HR solution tool which in real time helps individuals, teams, and leaders connect, communicate, and collaborate more effectively. So after a highly successful career in several global corporations, many of which you would all recognize, and also a lifelong commitment to establishing deep, meaningful connections around the world, Juan decided to start Human Intelligence. He is a recognized expert, not only in HR tech, but in helping organizations build high-performing teams at the same time they build a culture of belonging. This HR software solution has been described as a breakthrough for overall team collaboration. Let's hear more from Juan about helping leaders communicate more effectively, engage employees during a time of transformation. Juan, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, Kim. Thanks so much for having me here today. And thanks to the One Business World Group and Ian Ziskin and C4C as well. Do you want to open up with a specific question or should I jump into the presentation?
Well, I think we could open up, given a little bit of that introduction, how might your platform or tool help leaders better support transformational change for organizations, particularly in their communication? You know, how do we help them set up for more success during times of transformation with this tool?
Great question. So everyone knows that to do change management, especially transformational change, you need to understand your organization, and that starts with understanding each person, each team, each division or organization within your enterprise. Understanding starts with the behaviors, the motivators, and the work styles of a person, a team, a group. And so our tool takes psychometrics, layers on an AI and an integration into your current workflows so that during a transformational change project, not only does the executive team knows who's more willing to change and more open to change just because that's how they are naturally, but as well as different groups so they can focus the resources in areas of the company with leaders in their teams that are going to be more resistant. So it's a more efficient way to communicate, a more efficient way to implement change, if you will, because you're now going to understand people at a much deeper level, much more quickly than ever before.
That's amazing. Well, tell us more.
Okay, well, I'm going to share screen and jump in and connect how inclusion and better understanding and belonging leads to this implication for change. So this presentation is going to be around how HR technology and AI, how it makes work more human and how you can operationalize and sustain this culture of inclusion and belonging for better performance and its implications for change management. So the future work is already here. Human understanding is the key to change management, and it does lead to improved communication, more productive meetings, better leadership, improved team collaboration, and of course, more inclusion and belonging. The problem that we're all facing these days in the purple in the top left is all going to affect communication, and communication's key driver for change management and transformational change. Distributed workforces are here to stay. And so even if you're back to work, you might have a company that's distributed across 20 offices and you don't know everyone there. That leads to a difficult time doing change management and even understanding each other. The bottom left blue circle, email friction. McKinsey came out with a study that showed that 38% of emails are misunderstood and cause friction. How are you going to do change management if you can't even communicate effectively in written language? Change management with the younger population, Gen Zers, millennials. They are now in positions of power and are leaders at organizations, yet they don't have the same soft skills that a lot of the older generation grew up with. And so how do you implement change when you have young leaders who are Gen Zs and millennials? And all innovation needs collaboration. And if you don't understand each other, that's very difficult. This is leading to the backbone of business basically breaking. Some of the cost figures around these challenges and why now. Well, human connection is lost, and 74% of workforces are in some fashion remote, hybrid, or distributed. Leaders in the top left box believe 72% of them believe that they struggle with team communication. That same 72% are going to struggle with change management. 60% of Gen Zers and millennials are not very engaged. How do you do change management in a transformational way if 60% of your Gen Zers and millennials are looking for a new job? The lost productivity from email communication is $12,000 per employee per year, and turnover costs are huge at $30 billion. Why do people feel disconnected at work? A lot of people don't realize that one of the major reasons is that first bullet point. 34% of people, when surveyed, feel that different personality and work styles from their own coworkers that they don't know well is leading to them not feeling connected. If you're not connected, you're not going to really participate in change management projects. What's that impact on performance? Well, without that meaningful connection, employees don't have a sense of belonging. Without belonging, their commitment and dedication just plummets, along with capabilities for innovation. Everyone has studied at BetterUp, they've done large studies that show that the benefits of connection are huge. 34% attain greater goal attainment when companies are more connected. 36% have a boost in well-being, and 59% show more positive relationships, as well as 92% increase in professional growth. And Kim, feel free to interrupt and ask questions along the way if you feel like. There's a new future coming, and it's happening now. A new future of work solution for better collaboration, inclusion, and belonging. There are tools that exist today for smarter AI-driven personality tools that will help with change management. These are scalable plug-in tools that take psychometrics and integrate them into your current workflows, kind of like Grammarly. As we all know, Grammarly did not invent how to write or vocabulary or a thesaurus. Grammarly just took lots of content that already existed, and because of technology and AI, they now put it at your fingertips. The same thing that we all love about personality tools that are one and done, that you do in a workshop that you never see again, or God forbid, you have to get certified over years. All of those insights now can be accessible at your fingertips when you're writing to someone, when you're leading a change management program for your team, for an entire company. Gartner calls this tools that are coming to market that combine the science of personality assessments with AI for better emailing, meetings, and workspaces. And they're integrated at the bottom right into all of the platforms that you've now invested in as heads of HR for collaboration and communication. In the screenshot, you can see that tips like this can be exposed in a meeting virtually, where you have the, if I can draw here, you have the group strength for a group of people in a meeting like this. You have the actions that you can solicit from the AI engine that will help you understand how best to run this meeting or this training, as well as inclusion tips for maybe one person, this person here might not be like the others, so that you can understand how to better include that person in that meeting. Email with AI can be more inclusive as well, because now when someone like Pedro is writing to Julie, Pedro can write an email, click one button, and that email then gets rewritten instantly for the way that Julie likes to receive information. And you can just simply use that text, copy and edit it, or regenerate another version. Now, what's great about tools like this that are coming out, you don't just get the answer, you also want to train and develop your employees around soft skills, so the tool actually shows how Pedro got this result, how the AI changed it to learn more about Julie's style. She's deliberate, she's analytical, and has a desire for rational based on her profile. Therefore, the email is rewritten to come across more that way for Julie. All of this is now real at a button, one button click away for any employee at a company to start understanding each other and be more inclusive when they write. You can also use this kind of inclusivity AI with psychometrics for collaboration in a virtual team meeting like Microsoft Teams. For instance, you can visualize meeting dynamics. In this example, you're visualizing the dynamics of this group of people here at the top, and they're now working together. And so there's a group that shows that 83% of this group are here to the left. They're more stability oriented. You have people who are deliberate, reflective, steady, but there's one person who's opposite the group. This one person who's decisive won't feel like they're very included. And so if there's a change management project, it's good for the team and the leader of that team driving this change management project to realize that this person's change oriented and the other ones are going to be resistant to change. That obviously could lead to some friction between the change oriented person who's decisive and the people who are not. And so this is a great tool so that people can understand each other, be more inclusive in projects, whether they're change management related or other. As you can see, tools like this will point out inclusion tips, not focused only on gender or race, where a lot of the energy has been focused recently, but also on a more broad sense of how people work. So you can have diversity of thought and understanding of who's different in a meeting so that you can measure, do it more inclusively. One example would be, let's say Mary here is very shy and reflective, where everybody else is a self-starter. They are outgoing and very proactive. Mary may not speak up. Well, a tool like this would actually share with the group, hey, you should listen to Mary, ask her to speak after everybody else is done, and be more inclusive so she has a sense of belonging as well. You can drill down on any one person in tools like this and truly understand each participant to train them, to better work with them. This way you can make everyone feel like they belong. The old world of assessments, these older assessments that it's a one and done where you use it and there's not much more value after that, is going to be a thing of the past. With AI, with technology, you'll be able to get insights, not through a consultant and a workshop that costs $10,000, but for pennies to the dollar, every employee, tens of thousands of people in a week will be able to have access to the insights without having to be certified and trained and remember everything, all at their fingertips. And so the value will be increasing infinitely. Tools like this that we're aware of get used around 20 to 30 times per employee per month. If you multiply that in a year times the 12 months of the year, you're looking at 400 uses of getting insights to be more inclusive, to be more help belong. Compare that to a typical assessment that gets used one and done one time in a workshop, and maybe again a week later, 2 times versus 400. These new tools are literally 300 to 400 times more valuable and cost a fraction of the price of existing tools. How psychometric tools can accelerate and operationalize change management? Well, we opened up the discussion around this topic on how a leadership team can identify who's resistant to change in the actual leadership team. Maybe it's the CFO, maybe it's the CHRO, maybe it's the head of supply chain. But imagine you can understand who embraces change, who doesn't at your leadership level. You can then look at the entire company and see what divisions of the company, by rolling up this aggregate data, to see which divisions are resistant to change and focus resources on those and use these talent analytics for the whole enterprise. Communication styles are different. So you can actually push a button and deliver change management communications to different groups of the company who learn differently and read differently by cohort. Behavioral change takes nudges. And so if you can nudge people day by day, week by week, in terms of change management, this will lead to more trust, more transparency. Understanding at this level with this kind of transparency leads to more agility, inclusion, and belonging. And again, with those generational differences, you can communicate better with those Gen Zers and those millennials. Here's an example. If I could draw again. Here's an example where you have on the left, for example, the motivators of a team. Here, for instance, you have a group of knowledge-based people. Most of this team are extreme knowledge-based. They like learning for learning's sake. They're not as practical. You can imagine if somebody comes onto that team, a new employee named Ken Smith, and Ken is practical, extremely practical. He wants to get things done. He wants to move forward, and everybody just wants to talk and debate on a whiteboard in terms of the concept. There's a new change management project, and Ken is self-reliant as well. Let's say these are his two dominant traits. So you have a practical Ken and a self-reliant Ken, which is very different than the rest of the team. Ken would be driving a change management project without a tool like this, not understand why he's rubbing everyone the wrong way. You can also see how a broader team who's creative, this entire creative team, their work styles, if you're doing change management, do it in a way that energizes this group, which is in a creative way. And see how maybe for certain individuals in that group, delivering change management in a more systematic way might be a more effective way. In terms of behaviors, you can see clearly these are the people who are change oriented. And so the change management program won't be that difficult now that you've understood them. And this group over here on the left, they're going to be a much more adverse to change. And so literally understanding who's change oriented and not will help with your change management programs. You get these insights through Microsoft Teams, through any group, any collaboration platform. Moving on to talent analytics, you can see for our entire division, and its sales division, how change oriented they are. However, for example, in the finance and accounting division, you can see that they're not very change oriented. So if you're going to implement resources and hire consultants or focus your resources in HR, which we know most HR departments are getting less resources, you might want to focus on the change management program with these people because they're going to need more hand holding than your sales organization, as obviously evident by how they show up at work. And I think that leaves us about 10 minutes to do more Q&A and to have further questions with the group. But just wanted to kind of frame the discussion around those points. So thanks so much, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have one kind of just practical questions. How do we get, this is great content. How do we get access to your slides?
You can, I'm going to put it in the chat. I hope everyone can see it. Everyone, I'm going to put my email there. So just go ahead and write to me at this email. And actually CC this other one. This other one is my scheduling email that I see more quickly. So write to both those and I'll get the slides back to in PDF form.
That's great. Another question that came up, which I think is a very interesting one, and that is, and it's a question for all of using AI in a way, you know, for various ways, using it for good like this, which is what's the line between using these tools, which, as you say, is real-time training for people, real-time learning, kind of continuous learning and reinforcement, to actually, let's say, outside of Zoom, you know, outside of, you know, being remote, how do we also use the tools, but also help people engage this new way together when they're meeting together physically? You know, how do you mix the tool with actually meeting? And maybe that's a little bit about hybrid, right? Because many groups have been global for years. Sales organizations have been remote for years. How do you mix this? You know, how do you use this and develop tools while people are actually in a meeting face to face?
Yeah, so there's a module that's been developed. It's called a culture playbook. And so basically what it's doing is we've all been in the 4-hour team dynamics workshop, right? Where you bring a consultant in and they describe the dynamics of the team. And they usually use some type of personality assessments. It's in person, but it takes 4 hours and you're out of your work, your day-to-day work. The reality is people want digestible bites of insights. And so this culture playbook is done where the leader of a team usually has a weekly meeting, you would hope, if not a monthly meeting for sure. And in that monthly meeting, they can pull up the platform through Microsoft Teams and click playbook. And what it does is it takes a 4-hour workshop that kind of goes through the 15 different areas of the dynamics of the team and pulls out one. And actually the leader or the team can pick which one they want. And it'll literally say, of the 10 behaviors, today we're going to look at the one that shows the most extreme differences on this team. 10 people on this team are decisive and only 2 are deliberate. Let's drill into that, everyone. And it's a playbook that takes about 15 minutes. and ask 3 simple questions. One, it shows everybody on share the screen. So some people will be in the room, some people will be virtual, but you want everybody to be on a virtual meeting, whether you're physically together or combined. And it'll say, let's look at this variable of being decisive versus deliberate. Can anybody on the team talk about where being decisive has worked out for us well as a team? And then you have 10 people really decisive. You're going to get plenty of answers. Okay. And now let's talk to the 2 people who are extreme deliberate. We're the minority. Where has this hurt us? And let's talk about that. And so it's kind of that workshop where you usually bring a consultant, the computer, the laptop, the playbook is actually surfacing these great little discussion points where you talk about it for 15, 20 minutes. Everyone learns about each other, about the team dynamic, about the strength, weakness, or blind spot. And then you move on and you go back to your regular meeting for the rest of the 45 minutes. You do that once a month. It takes about a year, but you basically are then in your own day-to-day monthly meetings getting to really powerful insights about the team and the team dynamics.
Okay, thanks. A couple other really interesting questions here. And someone said, oh, really like the idea of a monthly meeting, a cadence. As you say, whether it's hybrid or not, oftentimes just to stay connected and aligned and to collaborate well, right? There has to be a routine, a cadence. So one question has to do with resistance. How do you overcome, in some organizations, how do you overcome even some employees or leaders being resistant to using the platform?
It's a great question. So you make it voluntary.
Okay.
And that gets around privacy issues, and 2, you put controls where the user can click whether they want to share it only with their manager or manager and their team or their division or the entire company. So it's a rules base where any individual can opt out. So 0 visibility, have just their boss see it, their team see it, their division see it, or the entire company. We usually get around 92% of employees actually end up taking it. Only 1 in 1,000 opts out after they take the personality test. Another cool feature that our clients told us about that we added is you're able to self-score your own result, and you can have your team score you to get their feedback. So what a great validation or insight and blind spot if you say, oh no, I think this is only 6 out of 10, and your team says, oh no, Juan, it's 9 out of 10. If we all agree, this really explains you. This is how you show up. What a great moment in life when you're an adult and you don't realize and don't have the self-awareness that you're actually showing up differently than you thought.
Right. What's interesting about some of that, some of us are coaches, right? So there's an interesting piece here where if a team coaching or individual coaching, where the team may be using this, the coach can either be part of it and listen or, interact as they're learning during the year. Very interesting. Very interesting.
We have hundreds of coaches who use our product with the teams that they coach because it really is helpful in coaching.
Okay. That's, like you say, it's real time. And so many of these things are hard to remember to even use after you've had a personality assessment, of which many of us do that, so that's very interesting. Another one is, how do you, with any assessment, not just this one that's used as part of the software, how do you make sure that any team or a group of leaders don't make it an either or box people? There's this whole thing about labeling people,
Correct.
Based on personality. Talk to us a little bit about how you have worked with the organizations that are implementing this, whether it's in HR or it's a broader leadership team, about that, because that can happen anytime, whether it's through AI or it's through some of the assessments many of us know about today.
Yeah, this is more nuanced. I don't have a real black or white answer.
Yeah.
The reality is everyone's already putting everyone else in boxes.
Well,
everyone projects on
yeah.
others what they think. If somebody walks in a room and does something where I perceive them as gregarious and lighthearted, that's a perception I'll have for months before maybe something else changes that. So what this does is bring to light the reality of someone's directional tendencies. We tell all of our clients, though, and I think not just our tool, all assessments should, that it's just directional. It's kind of what you're born with directionally. And so, like a basketball player who's right-handed, that is their stronger hand. But to be a great basketball player, you have to learn the duality to use your left hand. So, like a personality test, if you are decisive in your behaviors naturally, to be a great employee, team member, leader, you need to learn to also be deliberate and not just decisive. So the
Yeah.
best leaders, the best team members are those that learn from a tool like this, like any assessment, where my blind spot is, what am I not, so that I can actually be both. Because in existing and living in the duality of all combinations, you can adjust and be the most agile person, team, and company. So a tool like this actually liberates people and companies and teams to see what they're missing, to be able to be both. So this is really a developmental tool for everyone, because everyone is naturally data-driven or
Sure.
conceptual. And so to see where you're not is a great insight for just growth.
Yeah, fair enough. And I thought about this. The other thing, a couple other questions. Another one would be, is there any research that demonstrates the impact of this information? Teams that have been using this for a while, is there some research that you're collecting on the impact on their performance, whether it's in a collaboration, which you have to have for innovation, or things like that? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so right now it's only qualitative data because we've only
Okay.
been into market. The assessment's been around for 7 years, but the collaboration piece of it only for a year with the whole AI.
Yeah.
And the AI has really been in production for 6 months. But we do a qualitative survey asking a baseline for every team that signs up with our platform. Rank your team 0 to 10, how effective it is as collaboration. We get
Sure.
a benchmark, and then every month we ask them, as they're using our tool, how effective is your team? And so far it's showing the last 6 months that 90% of the teams using our tool are showing improvement in collaboration. And then we also make it, but there's so many factors, right?
Oh
Any
yeah.
one
Oh
month,
yeah.
when you ask that question, it might not be because our tool, so it might
Oh
be
yeah.
just because that team is just working better because now they're together in the office, for instance. So we also asked the second question: how has human intelligence helped you in this past month, to collaborate better or be more engaged with your team? And that one has also shown consistency improvement.
Well, and that's asking the team to have their own sort of benchmark where they start and then how they're improving is also something that's shown to really, not only help communication within team, but it's their own assessment that they own. And that's a practice within all kinds of teams. So that's helpful. The other question, maybe go a little bit deeper with a story or example of how this solution helps improve collaboration. Because, I mean, there's so much about this during times of transformation, and even before you're in a major transformation. and it's one of the secret ingredients, I think, to success for high performance is collaboration. Can you talk a little bit more about how you've seen this used by teams, maybe a story about how their collaboration improved?
Yeah, so well, we only have a minute, so I
We
can't
have a
show
minute,
you.
maybe
Yeah.
a quick note of kind of a highlight.
Yeah, so we often find that a lot of leaders hire themselves, right?
Oh, sure.
They and they don't realize that their teams are lopsided one way. And so there are teams that for some reason they can't get structure and scale of a project or across an organization, and they're perplexed. They're all very smart, but it turns
Yeah.
out that they're not people who put in predictive processes. And so our tool, assessments in general, can show a leader, hey, the reason why you guys aren't able to scale this project, the reason you're not able to put a process in place that everyone's taking on, is because you guys can't even do it for yourselves.
So
Because
this
your
tool helps build the
natural tendency is
structure.
completely opposite.
it gives them a structure and a framework for collaboration. Well, that's
Correct.
a great start. And I think people have a lot more questions. There's a lot of interest. We're going to have to close, but Juan, you have given us maybe another secret ingredient here. Communication that's underlying not only a sense of belongingness, but improvement during a time of transformation. So thank you very much, and so pleased that you joined us. And we'll leave this and go on to the rest of our day, but I'm sure we're going to get more questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. Thank everybody.
Yep.